In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. In the jungle, the mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. A whimmoe, 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 a whimmoe. In the jungle, mighty jungle, the lion sleeps tonight. The lion sleeps tonight. A whimmoe, a whimmoe, a whimmoe, a whimmoe, a whimmoe, a whimmoe, a whimmoe. We've just formed a relationship. We've just coordinated our actions. We've interacted with each other. And I don't just mean you as a group, as a choir, with me as your conductor. I mean amongst yourselves. You've just formed some sort of interaction with each other that you otherwise wouldn't have done. We used gesture. I used quite large gestures. We used music. And more subtle, less obvious things such as expressions. You probably had a glance at your neighbour. You may not know your neighbour. You may not have interacted with them had I not started this talk in that way. Something happened that otherwise wouldn't have happened. And we did all of that with no words. So maybe there's something about that coordination of action, that interaction and social being in a group of people without words that is the reason that happiness is singing in a choir. I'm not going to ask that question right now. Do you feel happier than you did when you walked in that room? That would be a dangerous question to ask, probably. But there is no doubt that people believe this. Choirs are emerging all over the country and certainly the Western world. There are franchises emerging all the time, and it's become a massively popular activity. And you can find slogans like this all over the internet. But actually, it goes beyond that now, and there's an emerging body of research from various disciplines that show that singing together in a community choir situation is good for you. It's good for your well-being. And part of the reason that that researchers can now look at that is because emerging technology allows us to measure things beyond, for instance, before and after taking part in a choir rehearsal, like we just did. So there's lots of research that's taken place that says people have been asked about psychological measures of well-being and happiness before and after they took part in singing. They've enjoyed it more. There are now clinical trials that have taken place to show that singing in a group seems more beneficial than other social activities that get you out of the house every week and joining in as part of a group. But now people are starting to look at physiological measures as well, and neurological measures, and we can actually measure these things while people are singing. Wonderful. So we can start to understand what it is about singing together that's good for you. However, there's a really big problem, which is that so much is going on, as we just saw. So how do we understand whether or not singing together is good for you, or it's actually about the connections that you are making with people? It's that interaction that's taking place, the otherness that is beyond words. And that's the question that I want to focus on today. And we are trying to look at whether we can isolate that and control for those social elements to then understand whether or not and what about singing together might be beneficial. And we were doing this through virtual reality technologies. So here we have our very first attempt at a virtual reality choir. And so we have a quartet stood here in St. Olave's Church in York. You might know it. And you might be able to see that they do have some of the sensors attached that you saw on the last slide. So for instance, little things on their fingers. These are shimmer devices that measure heart rate variability and galvanic skin response, which is essentially how much you're sweating, so that we can look at how stressed or aroused you might be while you're singing. Now, research has shown in other studies that as singers sing together, as you were doing at the beginning, if we'd carried on our regular phrasing and you were breathing together, as you breathe regularly together, your heart rate variability would actually begin to synchronize. So that's one of the measures that we were trying to test the feasibility of in this study. So this quartet, they sang in the church, as they always do as a quartet, various songs, and we took measures of how much they enjoyed the experience, how aroused they were. And then we re-recorded that quartet, replacing each singer with a 360-degree microphone and video camera, so that we could make a recording of each performance from the perspective of each singer. And then they could come to the audio lab and wear a virtual reality headset, and a small microphone on their cheek. You might be able to see it in that picture, which allows us to make them sound as though they're in the space of the recording. So as they're singing or speaking, they sound and see themselves, they hear and see themselves in St. Olave's Church, not in the audio lab. And they can see, in this case, the tenor, alto, and soprano to their right, and they can sing along with them as though they are there in that space. But they can't communicate in real time. We've removed the social element of the experience. So what you're going to see on the next slide is a video of the alto when she came back to the audio lab to be part of her quartet, but this time in virtual reality. So hopefully you can hear that she doesn't sound like she's in the audio lab. When she's singing, she sounds like she's part of that quartet. Really important for us in building this virtual environment that it's realistic to the real environment. As soon as you hear yourself in a space that isn't the one you see yourself in, then the realism, the immersion in our virtual reality world will be lost. And we need it to be as immersive and realistic as possible for us to keep everything the same apart from that interaction. So we were really surprised at how much the singers enjoyed singing in virtual reality. They all reported to us verbally that it was great, and they absolutely felt like they were there. It was like the real thing. Just occasionally, if they went wrong, it was a bit odd that the rest of the choir didn't adapt, which is what you would do in a real situation, or indeed give a dodgy look. So, no, none of that happened. But they really enjoyed it. They felt it was really realistic. Interestingly, when we've had an initial look at the data, suggests they didn't actually respond in the same way in the virtual and the real world. So there is something different happening, but they really enjoyed it. This made us think, well, we've got an opportunity here. We can use this virtual reality singing experience to get people who don't like singing, I won't sing in front of people, to come and sing in our virtual reality choir. So that's what we did. We invited people, we upgraded our rig, thanks to Gavin in the audio lab, who found some money down the sofa. So we now have an excellent spatial experience, so the audio became even better. And we got singers to come and try out our virtual reality experience. And they all said, oh, it's really realistic. Well, it turns out you can't have your cake and eat it. We can't say, we've made this amazing virtual reality experience, now come and sing, because they can't hear you. Well, but if it's really good, then I'm still massively intimidated by these really good singers, and I don't want to sing with them. So that's what we found, that actually people were still intimidated, still felt inhibited to sing in our virtual reality experience, because it was really good. Okay, so, and you might think, well, yeah, actually, if I was stood in that quartet, I'd feel a bit inhibited too. So maybe we can do something that's a community experience. And the stars aligned for a project with the National Trust, where they wanted to commemorate the gifting of land from the end of the Great War with some sort of event that didn't leave a trace on their landscape, because that's the thing they're trying to celebrate. So they created a project of a community choir hiking up summits in the Lake District and singing a song cycle. Fabulous project if you can hike to summits in the Lake District. So that's where we come in. We made a virtual reality experience of these performances, where you could experience the fabulous event without needing to be there, both as an audience member or as a choir member. So some people were members of the choir, but they couldn't do the hiking, so they did all the rehearsals. So we installed this in Keswick Museum so that people could come along, put on a virtual reality headset, and now we've adapted it also for headphones, and people could come along and take part in the experience. And again, overwhelmingly, people really enjoyed it. Some people sang, some people didn't sing, and that was fine, but they still enjoyed the experience a lot. So now we think about the next step. Can we make this an experience to help people who can't get out of the house as part of a community choir engage in this virtual reality experience? And so we partnered with Age UK and have been going into care homes and taking outdoor singing experiences. And we've been recording more and more singing experiences. And we've now created a website that allows people, depending on what technology you have at home. So if you have a VR headset at home and headphones, then you can do it in full VR. You can do it on your mobile phone or through YouTube. And I'm going to show you our YouTube channel now, if I can switch screens, please. So you can interact with this. It's 360 degrees. If you were wearing headphones, you would feel the full immersion of our full virtual reality experience. So if you turn towards one of the singers, you would hear them in front of you. You won't get that full experience now, but I'll show you how it works.
Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in, I want to be in that number. Oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in, oh, when the saints go marching in.
So you get the idea. You can click on your mouse and scroll around the experience. So we've created a controlled environment. We've removed the social element, the interaction in singing together using virtual reality. Now, we want to bring the social element back in so that we can maximize the impact for those people in care homes, etc. So we want to understand what well-being is, what in terms of singing together, what elements of singing together improve well-being, and use that understanding to inform the next steps for our virtual choir to build back in the social elements and have a real-time virtual choir across spaces. And that's our great plan for the future. Thank you.